I can't believe he said that. It was ridiculous. Bloody hell.
News. London Transport say they may have to close the underground system due to an infestation of horses.
Loads of horses, at least 30 I'd say. As the train approaches, they start running away from the train.
And what the drivers say they fear most of all is a head-on collision with a blind tube man.
What's up, YouTube? Hello, it's me, recording another Stewart Lee video, because that's the only thing people watch on my channel. Or actually, people do watch my With Nell and I single edit. That's at about 20,000 views, I think, so do check that out. This is Ways to Change the World, Channel 4, woke ridiculous Channel 4 podcast with Stewart Lee. He's being interviewed. He's not making jokes. He's actually saying things that he thinks. I have to take issue because one of my friends, my friend, really, not one of my friends, made a comment on the last video, and he said, I should have this written on a bit of paper, like Stewart Lee does, shouldn't I? Really? Yeah, my friend said, our lefties and their obsession with fact-checking and disinformation. Here's a fact for you to check, Stu. The US has a constitutional protection of free speech. I think if you want to get nicked for your jokes, you might want to look closer to home. Well, I won't tell you what his name is, but it starts with C and ends with has. And well, it's funny you should say that, because actually Stewart Lee is really a good bloke, and yeah, he wasn't saying that he would be arrested because he's funny, or because he says his English, actually, but he was saying it because he is quite left wing. And these days, if you go to America and you're left wing, you'll be detained at the airport for about an hour. So stick that in your pipe, and he doesn't smoke a pipe, but stick that in your pipe and smoke it, Chaz. Right. Anyway, that's good. Yeah, sorry. I'll buy you a pint next time I see you. Try and make up for that, but it did. I'm it's a bit too low, really, but it's a sad indictment of our friendship that you should make a negative comment about Stewart Lee, and I hope you don't. I hope you don't die. I mean, I don't want you to die, but anyway. Right, anyway, sorry, I've gone on too long about that. So let's dive into part two. This is Stewart Lee talking to Christian Gurmuthy, and he says some interesting things. So let's bloody just dive right into this.
I mean, but if you're right about the algorithms and what it's going to do to, I mean, not just comedians, but
everything.
Liberals.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to have social media dominated by the right.
Yeah.
And what does that mean?
The algorithms are now our gods in many ways, aren't they? Like Wodan and Zeus. I always liked Dr. Zeus. He was very good. But they're like our gods, and they control us, and we don't know their minds. Mark Zuckerberg does, but because he is essentially the inventor of God.
Mean for progressives, liberals, people who want to challenge, people who want to oppose? Is it a real back to basics moment where you have to do it for real, in front of real audiences, on pieces of paper?
I think you do. I mean, I another thing I really worry about is context. You know, so I write shows where the ideas sometimes take 2 hours to pan out, and they're not meant to be boil down into bits. When I've run afoul of people in the last few years, it's where they've been able to take a sentence out without the counterweight bits, and so I do really worry about that. I mean, the writing the newspaper columns with the change of management of the Observer came at quite a good time, really, because it's been getting increasingly difficult to avoid that happening, because there are a lot of bad faith actors who spend all day looking for a bit.
My cat's just come. My cat hasn't come, but my cat has come onto. Anyway, don't get distracted by it. She is just there. She's called Jessie Pinkman.
That they can take out. I mean, Lee Anderson was in the run-up to the last election. It stated explicitly. He said the bit out loud that you're not supposed to say. He said we can win this if we pursue transgender issues as a culture war wedge issue. So they're looking for things that they can take out of context and blow up. And so it's.
I think the transgender thing is actually complete bollocks in terms of being a serious issue that people should get upset about. I mean, there's always been transgender people. Get off now. That's enough. There's always been transgender people, and yeah, I understand the adolescents getting surgery and drug treatment thing, and to a great extent I agree with that. It's probably not a good thing, but the impending court cases and legal actions will I'm sure take care of that once they realise what they've done. But transgender is not new, is it? And also there's not many transgender people really, and they don't really affect virtually anybody's lives. I remember seeing a documentary about quite a famous documentary, probably in the early 80s, about a transgender guy who was wanting to become a woman, and it's probably a panorama or something. And I remember my mum, who wasn't very progressive or woke or left at all, saying, "Oh yes, it's transgender people. They're born in the wrong body, you know." She didn't speak like that, but said, they're born in the wrong body, and it happens. And so that was bloody years ago, and it's not a big issue.
It's difficult for us to avoid that. Once your work's out there, it can be fragmented. So,
but when you say you're not that well known and you're not a big personality, you do also have an extremely loyal audience who love you.
Yeah, I'm incredibly lucky, and I don't really know.
I love him.
How it's happened. I'm really, really lucky that these people come back. I keep thinking the tours will tail off because I'm not on anything, and I don't have a social media presence. I don't advertise. But they hold pretty steady and seem to build.
And who are they?
Well, they're not exactly who you think they are. There's a lot of people that would fit the Guardian reader stereotype. But when I go to Southend or Carlisle or Derby, there simply aren't that many people like that living there. So a lot of people come out. People come out that like comedy, right? They don't have to agree with you. This is another thing. The assumption is everyone goes to laugh at things they agree with. And while I am happy to provide crumbs of comfort towards an ideologically disenfranchised liberal middle class who've been made to leave Europe and whatever, I also like the fact that people come that don't agree with you, but like the skill of the humour. You know what I mean? I think there is something in that. So it's a kind of broader coalition than you'd think.
Do people get annoyed?
Less so.
Do you have the angry heckler?
Sometimes those people have stopped coming. Sometimes it was orchestrated. There was a period whereby I know pockets of people would come along to try to sabotage it, often based on some misunderstanding they got of the act, based on some.
I don't really understand why. I mean, right? I suppose subjectively he is middle class, liberal, metropolitan elite. To be fair. But I don't really understand why. I mean, a lot of people don't realise that it's an act, and they think he's just saying exactly what he thinks, and he's really annoyed about things, and clearly he's not.
Bad faith actor on a website or in a newspaper column But no, they tend not to. There's a good social spread now, but I think I've reached the point now where parents and grandparents are bringing their kids and grandchildren, and they're going, this is what an alternative comedian from the 1980s is like. A bit like I took my kids to see the Sun Ra Orchestra when they were about 9. I thought it was really important that they saw 60s free jazz in full, because I feel it's a dying sort of art form. And the main guy, Marshall Allen, was like 96 at the time or something, but I'm really glad that they saw that. I think I'm like that now. I think they kind of,
yes, and the cool kids will like you.
Yeah.
I found this old guy called Stewart Lee.
Yeah. I was interviewing Julian Cope once.
He could make a comeback like Frankie Howard did in the 90s. That was brilliant.
The Teardrop Explodes about 15 years ago. And he said a really wise thing, he said, which I always think of. He said, at the moment, he said, I know I'm a has-been, but if I keep going, I'll be a legend. There's a kind of
yes.
There's a bit you have to get through. And then if you're still there, people go, oh, fair play.
So how do you? Well, I don't know whether you find your audience, whether your audience finds you. If you're not on social media, you're not really on telly.
No.
You used to be on telly a lot.
I had a really good run. I mean, I had 12 hours of stand-up on BBC Two in a kind of 6-year period where I did 4 series for BBC Two, and no one's
Stewart Lee's comedy vehicle. Do check it out if you haven't seen it. It's hilarious.
Really done anything like that since. So I think I'm kind of I was like the last person to do that. The model that I had in mind was Dave Allen.
Yeah.
You know, from who you probably,
of course,
you might even be 3 years younger than me. You might be a bit young, but because he's. But yeah, I was really lucky that I had that little burst.
So what's happened to TV comedy?
Well, there's a lot less money in it. You know, Channel 4, for example, are making 25% of what they did in comedy 20 years ago, and it's harder to get funding for things that feel specifically British, and I think what I do does, because you're trying to do partnership deals to make programs like Sex Education that are set in a blandly anonymous non-place.
Things that Americans will get as well.
Americans will get as well, yeah. And
I think that's really sad. I hope British. Quintessentially British comedy returns, not in the form of Little Britain, obviously, but in a good way, because there's so much great historical British comedy that's excellent.
There's always a worry that things are culturally too specific. Although my ex-wife Bridget Christie's show is very culturally specific to a particular kind of white rural British working class, I think, and yet seems to be popular abroad because its specificities become universal in some way. And also, I think the fact that Adolescence did really well might change the way British TV thinks about funding things, because that's set in a very British.
Adolescence is brilliant because it doesn't. The camera keeps going. And it follows them all over the place, and it doesn't matter how fast they run or where they go. It's just there. They can't get away from it, and you can see them sometimes. They're like, "Fucking just go into this toilet and wash my hands for a bit because I'm tired of all this acting I'm having to do." But the camera just follows them in, and then you can see them. They're like washing their hands, faffing around with paper towels and things, just trying to and out the corner of their eye they can see the bloody cameras still there, and it really annoys them, but they keep going, you know.
British milieu, but it seemed to be universally understood as being true, but that's certainly a problem of it. Though, yeah, I mean, it was just I didn't really realise, looking back, the 90s was a bit of a golden age. Certainly my kids, they like to look at Big Train and the Armando Iannucci shows and the thick of it, and they see that as all belonging to some...
And Time Trumpet's amazing.
...kind of school of comedy, which I don't appear to be included in. I'm kind of going, I used to write for them, actually. But
Stewart Lee, you're in your own genre, mate. You are a genre.
They love that whole time, and we were in that, and you look back at it and you go, yeah, that was really good, actually.
And so, in terms of your show, I mean, your shows all have a sort of a theme or an idea.
Yeah.
The new show is Stewart Lee versus the Man Wolf.
Yeah.
The Man Wolf is what is the manosphere.
I mean, the reality is approach to this show at incredible speed. Normally I write them and I feel their relevance diminishing, and then by the time I finish the tour 18 months later, people are going, what's he bothered about that for? I mean, there was one I remember where it was all about, a lot of it was about Brexit and Boris and whatever, and the whole payoff was something to do with Johnson, and it just went out, it finally went out on TV about a week before he was disappeared, so it just got in under the wire. But this one is about this idea that there's a certain kind of rhetoric and a certain kind of value system that is informing American politics on the grander scale, British politics a bit, and a lot of the kind of comedy that we see on Netflix, and stand-up comedy. That you could say it's from the manosphere, you could say it's callous, you could say it's ignorant, you could say it's bullying. And it's about how that squares off against liberal ideas.
It's basically right wing. It's these righties. I hate them. And Chaz, I hope you haven't become a righty, because I'm not really a lefty, but it's upsetting, the righties, and their insistence on ignoring facts. It just pisses me off, frankly. But I will buy you that pint. So.
And again, when I wrote it and I tried to embody this idea by dressing up as an angry werewolf, it seemed a bit of a stretch. But within weeks, it felt almost too on the nose. And now people absolutely get what it is. And I have to keep rewriting it, because the things that the horrible American Netflix werewolf stand-up comedian says are just simply not nasty enough. As the weeks go by. I have to ramp them up because of the speed at which Trump is degrading acceptable rhetoric.
I mean,
you mentioned Trump. Oh God! Right, let's just finish that little section there. We're about halfway, so that's good. Yes, I disagree, really. I don't think the hard-hitting sort of Bill Burr and all that sort of stuff I don't think it's that much of a bad thing. I think, and I don't also necessarily think it's a right-wing thing. I just think the left has become so pathetic that it's now deserving of being parodied, really. And I've been thinking about this a lot since my last video where I reacted to Carl Benjamin, who's a sort of right-wing moaning man who has got a channel he moans about wokeness. And, you don't have to work that hard, really, to get a laugh or get a reaction by having a go at the left wing, because the left wing have become totally pathetic. And, I agree the fuck out of them, generally. But there's so many annoying characters, Emily Maitlis sort of accusing people of this and that. And there's that Owen Jones with the croaky voice, ironically talks like a sort of a 1980s Bernard Manning type comedian, but he's very left wing and he's got this annoying croaky voice. I can't believe what's going on in Gaza. And I used to call myself left wing. I've always been left wing, very much. And it used to be just caring about people who are less fortunate than you, which is, a rather noble thing, I would say. But it's now just... The right has done an amazing job, actually. And it doesn't make me like them. But they have done an amazing job at completely lambasting the left. And of course, this isn't new, because this all happened last in the early 90s with the loony left. Remember if you're my age, you'll remember the loony left. And I'd have to do a thing for the beginning little black and white bit. So I'll quickly. I can't believe he said that. It was ridiculous. Bloody hell. But yeah, it happened before there was, the loony left, there was Bar Black Sheep, and you couldn't say black. And then Labour boroughs were apparently saying that you couldn't have black coffee because you were saying the word black. And I'm sure most of these things were frankly just made up. But, you do. I tell you one thing that annoys me, and this video is going on a long time, I know, but I've got to say this because it pisses me off, having worked in the NHS, is there was a phase, and I'm sure it's still going on actually, where they started talking about BAME. If you haven't heard the word BAME, then you're a lucky person. BAME is people of black and ethnic minority ethnic. Black and minority ethnic. Essentially, what the middle classes, the lefty middle classes hate is saying the word black, because it's very embarrassing. So they've now come up with BAME. So you call people BAME, and it's stupid because, most people who would be described as black say black. Get on board. Stop trying to avoid saying embarrassing things that you imagine might upset people, when actually those people frankly are probably as racist as you are, because racism really is universal, and there isn't a race on earth that doesn't have huge sections of society that are racist. And I know this, having a wife who's from Africa, and African people are just as racist as anyone else. Bloody Indians, bloody Jamaicans, bloody this. It's unfortunately, racism is universal across the world. So there you go. Slightly depressing, but hopefully some interesting insights there for you. It's a deep mine, this Stewart Lee interview. It's really, I'm getting some real gems up from it. So do forget not to like and subscribe, hit the notifications button, leave a comment below, Sunny, and share, and I'll see you next time. Don't nobody go nowhere.